Title of this story is, Am I the Astronaut for Kicking My Wife Out After She Punched My Mom in the Face? What? My situation went from bad to worse in a matter of a week, and I don't know where else to turn. I need to know if I was wrong. Possibly a validation thing because life is effing dumb right now. My wife and I have been together for 8 years and she just gave birth to our first and last baby 2 months ago. I'm not sure WTF is wrong with my mom or why the switch happened, but after my wife got pregnant, my mom started being very clingy to me and started avoiding my wife at all costs. Told everyone she wasn't excited about the pregnancy, etc. I threatened to go no contact with her when my wife was about 7 months along, and after that she snapped out of it for the most part and stopped being so ignorant. The comments 100% stopped, at least, though she still was clinging to me. Now, a week ago, my mom, my sister's husband, and my sister's daughter, 12, came over for dinner. I prepared the meal. Before my wife could eat anything, our daughter got fussy, so my wife excused herself to go feed the baby and get her down to sleep. I thought I prepared enough, but apparently not because my niece was still starving. She's 5'5" and 190 pounds. I haven't seen her in a year and she was not that size then, so I didn't exactly portion in an extra 3 helpings for a child, so it's on me. I apologized and told her that I hadn't made any more and offered her crackers as I was putting my wife's portion in the fridge. After that, I just went outside with my sister's husband to smoke a cigarette and shoot the breeze. Didn't think anything of it. But then I hear yelling from inside. When I walked in, my wife and my mom were screaming at each other. Apparently, my mom, who saw me put my wife's food away, gave my niece my wife's portion of food. As I was walking inside, I heard my mom say, "Looks like you can afford to skip a meal," and slapped my wife's stomach. Right as soon as I get ready to step in, literally fast walking toward them, yelling, "Enough!" My wife winds back and punches my mother square in the face and drops her. The whole house went silent outside of my mom crying and holding her face. I told everyone to get the out. Immediately, everyone leaves and my wife just turns toward the counter and leans with her hands on the counter and face down, eyes closed. I look at my wife and say, "You two, leave now." She says, "Really?" She's crying at this point. I say a clipped, "Yep." She packs up her and the baby and they leave. I texted her that night and said I just need space. I need to decompress and come to terms with what just happened. She doesn't respond. The next 5 days, I'm texting and calling and I get nothing. She shows up here today, so 8 days later, and hands me divorce paperwork and my baby and says, "Here, you have a bit to hang out with her while I go pack. When I'm done breastfeeding, we can work out a visitation schedule that is either at your place or my mother's until she will take a..." I told her that's not what I want. I don't want to separate. I just needed time to process her punching my mother in the face. She said, "You needing time to process gave me time to process the fact that I refused to be in this situation any longer." I defended myself. I initially felt bad and remorseful, but you making me leave when I needed you made me see more clearly. I'm done. I'm sorry for what I did, but there's no fixing this. She refused to speak to me at all the rest of the time that she was here. My house feels so empty and I don't know what to do. Am I the astronaut for making her leave after she punched my mom? I just needed some effing space. Edited to add, for the record, I am team wife. My mom deserved it wholeheartedly, and I've blocked her completely from my life. I literally just needed time to process what happened. My wife is a lot of things. Violent is not one of them. So this came completely out of left field and would not have happened without her being provoked. After it all happened, my mom sent me a text saying, "See, I told you she was crazy. That fat bitch doesn't belong in our life." I'm willing to bet she purposely tried setting my wife off. So no, I'm not on my wife's side 100%. I truly just needed to process what happened, and my wife took it as me giving up on her, not defending her and throwing her and our baby out, which did essentially happen because I knew she had to take the baby with her when I kicked her out. Edited to add to the reason why. My dad was physical with me and my siblings growing up. Mom was put in the hospital multiple times. It took years for police to enforce restraining orders, and he finally died in 2013. Violence scares the effing shit out of me. I clam up and get anxious around violence of any kind now. My wife knows this, and she too grew up with a violent stepdad, and she gets just as anxious and panicky around violence. Her punching my mom in the face triggered an anxious response, and I needed her gone at that moment. I needed it far away from me. I don't know why I didn't just leave. I could have, but in that moment, I just let my emotions and fear run the whole circus and told everyone to get out, her included. My mom slapped her first. I guess for some reason I was seeing my wife's punch as being worse than the slap. It wasn't a hard slap, but my wife did kind of wince looking back at it now. She was fine, but my mom was bleeding, split her eyebrow open, in good shape. I don't know. Thanks for the responses. I'm the asshole. I'm going to try to go kiss ass now. Ladies and gentlemen, to help give us some feedback on the story, the one, the only, the Candy Thunder.
Peppered beef jerky.
The real tater in love here. You have peppered beef jerky in your mouth?
No, I did before I got here. His whole I need to kiss ass and do all this stuff is completely negated by the fact that he said he's possibly on Reddit for validation for doing what he did. He came to get validated for kicking his wife and his 2-month-old baby out of his house. How do you, and then to say like, oh yeah, I did, I realized I messed up, blah, blah, blah. But you came originally for possibly validating what you did to your wife. And I assume that's your wife's house too. And your baby's house too, and you knew if you kicked your wife out, you were kicking your baby out. You abandoned them.
He did.
When she's in the middle of postpartum, the worst part of postpartum, in my 2 times opinion, is that 2-month mark, because people come around less. You're more like the baby starting to be awake more, like sleep gets all messed up again. That's 2-month mark is a hard freaking part, and your mom set you up, and you just took the bait. Like, she set this whole thing up. She knew exactly what she was doing, and you just walked right into it and gave her what she wanted. And then you didn't choose your wife. Like, I can't even, I mean, I would hand him divorce papers too. There's no question about it.
He didn't choose his mother. He chose himself. Like, it wasn't a choice. He sent everybody away. But yes, mom absolutely played this.
Yes.
Knowing what trauma he has, knowing that she was going to take advantage of it, knowing exactly what she was doing. And in that moment when your wife needed you to step up and choose her more than any other time before, you chose yourself.
He could have walked away though. Like, you don't kick your wife and your baby out of your home when you can very easily walk outside, take a drive, go get your space that you need. You do not abandon your wife and baby.
He wasn't even directly affected in this. He was a bystander, right? Like, she was the one that got into this altercation and got baited into this by mom.
She was told that she was fat, that she didn't need to eat, and then she was slapped. So yeah, of course she's going to respond in that situation. And instead of like seeing that could have happened, you didn't take even a breath. You just kicked her out and was like, I can't look at you. I can't see this. I mean, you did the one thing that you promised not to do when you married your wife. And that I don't think you can get that back. I don't think you can kiss ass and make up for what you've done.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tony said the mom's response saying that, I mean, she just basically told you she baited you and you fell for it. You can't slap people and tell them they're disgusting and not expect them to respond. That's just crazy.
And they both came from upbringings where they had violent people around. So it's not just a him thing. I mean, it's something that they have in common. And whether you have PTSD from it or not, you don't repel your family. Like, if anything, at this point, he needed to step up and protect them, and did the opposite, sent everyone away to protect himself, not physically, mentally, emotionally. But his wife had just been through something, a physical altercation, and he sent her away. And like the most heated time, like that's not the time. It's time to circle the wagons. It's time to make sure that she knows that she's safe. This is her space too. And instead, just sent her away. You,
in that moment, could have went up to your wife, hugged her, consoled her, told her how much you loved her, and turned around. Like, the situations where you were in were abused and you knew violence. Like, you could have saved your wife in that moment because you saw her get slapped. But instead, you just treated her like dirt. Like, you treated her like she was nothing. Like, only your mental health mattered, not the woman who just gave birth. I mean, what if she had a C-section? Like, we don't know that, but you don't slap a woman who just gave birth in the stomach. Come on.
So where would you put OP at here, Candy Thunder? I'll let you do the honors. There it goes. Yeah. We did talk about this too.
No question.
When we have Ask On Ones, I think we're gonna start doing something like this.
Yeah.
We're gonna get this etched, like an Ask On One etched on here, and this will be the Ask On One award. There we go. We'll call it the Assy Award. Something like that.
The Assy.
The Assy. It's definitely not cool.
No.